get lost. We're trying to get this up and running. Up and running. And we just got to wait for the preview. Looks like it's coming through any moment now, but you can skip ahead a moment. Excuse me while I have a little drink. Just had a late lunch. And it's one of those things where you're not feeling your sharpest, you're not feeling your most energetic after a big meal. But we're going to jump into it anyway. And here comes the image now. We just got to check the audio real quick. Hold on. It's jumping. Sounds okay. And here comes, it's a bit of a hiss in the background, but never mind. Panasonic Panic, GH6 user psychological breakdown, M43 anxiety. What on earth is going on with the community of owners of the GH6? I had no idea. Even though I've been making multiple GH6 videos talking about the camera, the psychology, the experience. But there was something I was missing out on covering 100%. And that is the firmware updates. And apparently guys, Panasonic hasn't been putting out firmware updates for some time for this camera. Now that's something only an owner would know, right? And I guess there's this thing where you can't constantly want that aftershock of retail validation, that retail therapy via the firmware updates. And this is an interesting psychological phenomenon. Now, I did see a couple of videos, one on the Nerdy Geeky Techie channel and one on the Caleb Hoover channel. Both came out the same day, just after I released my other GH6 video one day earlier. And yeah, it's a thing. It's a phenomenon. The user base is pissed. They feel left out. There are feelings of hopelessness. They feel undervalued, unappreciated, worthless, abandoned. And it's been a while since a firmware update. And it makes you wonder, well, if the camera's so great, like the enthusiasts will tell you enthusiastically, do you really need a firmware? Okay, initially, because I think there was one where they had to get the external hard drive recording enabled. To me, that was odd they didn't have that ready when the camera came out. I suspect they did have it ready, and I suspect it was a deliberate drip feed to actually play into this psychology of users feeling like they're getting something new after they've already bought the camera. But I guess Panasonic didn't go far enough. They didn't anticipate that the need for validation would still be there almost 2 years after the camera was released. That's right, folks. The GH6 users are still sucking at the teat. They have not been weaned off. They need that drip feed, that Panasonic milk and honey. And the question is this a part of camera ownership that we maybe are guilty of neglecting to analyze? I know that I haven't gone into the psychology of it. But what is it about a human being that is dependent on a firmware upgrade? I mean, is it just the feeling of being trendy? Like, oh, wow, they're still, my camera's still relevant and cool, and they're still improving it, and we're still in the headlines. We're not a has-been yet. Is it the feeling that the camera's not good enough? I don't think that's it. Is it the feeling that the camera was very expensive and so they need to derive a high amount of value, and every firmware upgrade is a little bit more that they're getting for their money. Because a lot of people overpaid. This camera was super expensive when it came out. It's dropped in price by almost 50% since it was released. Camera body only. So I think those are probably the main factors. I think honestly it's mostly the wanting to feel trendy. I think they want to be in the limelight. You know, they don't want to feel like everyone is moving on to, you know, the phase detect and they're left behind. They want to feel like they're still on the bus, still with the cool kids at the back of the bus. And they don't want to feel like yesterday's news. They don't want their camera to be deemed obsolete. And just out of curiosity, I did check the last GH5 update, which was 2020, July, I think. So almost 4 years back. But yeah, panic. And the new camera rumors are also fueling a bit of M43 anxiety, fears for what the future holds. GH6 though, you know, I mean, what can they really do with the firmware? Like, the people who are blasting this didn't seem to be really, just in the comments that were highlighted, offering constructive criticism. It was just, you know, give us something. I mean, the thing about that camera is it has incredible specs. Maybe they're hoping the autofocus. Oh, the Caleb Hoover video was interesting because he was just basically saying the autofocus was unusable, but I thought he was saying the autofocus was pretty decent when the camera came out. I'm just saying, you know, I pointed out this sort of contradiction earlier, but you know, the narrative now is phase detect, phase detect, phase detect. So I think though Panasonic, because they made so many attempts to improve contrast autofocus with the GH5 and firmware and GH5 Mark II and then the GH6 when it initially came out, they've probably like done about all they can. You know, like it's gone through multiple iterations of improvement. You know, it's probably the law of diminishing returns now. I'm guessing, unless there's some brilliant engineer or mathematician who can make it, you know, work 10 times faster or, you know, 10 times better. I don't know, but that's wishful thinking, probably. The Panasonic GH6, are the users just being a bit brattish? Is the brattishness, are they a bit spoiled? Are they asking for too much? In a way, like, we have an industry where it's not just about taking photos anymore. It's not just about producing content. It's about the experience of buying, owning. It's about the materialism. It's about the technology. It's about the community. It's about being a part of the evolution of cameras. And I think it's like with, you know, these video game creators, right? Like, they want to involve the community, or at least make it look as if they're involving the community. You know, they at least have to have a two-dimensional, you know, pro forma outreach to the community and some two-way dialogue. And giving them back, you know, like you install the game, but then you want constantly upgrades, new leagues, new items in the game, new levels and all of that. I think it's that psychology that is behind the complaints of the GH6 user base. Now, I still think it's a bit of a meltdown. I think maybe there's a bit of insecurity I think the GH6 reception and the fact that it's already gone vintage, something I've talked about before. GH6 is a vintage camera. No camera in history has ever gone vintage faster than the GH6. It's a vintage camera less than 2 years after it came out. And so users have that anxiety, that insecurity, that feeling like maybe people might think they're a bit silly for buying the GH6. And I think it was the Caleb Hoover video talked about, like, a lot of people he knows, they're just selling the camera. Like I pointed out, a lot of YouTubers, they get it and they sell it. Certainly, it didn't take long before you started seeing them secondhand. I always find it amazing when a camera's only been out 6 months and someone's selling it already. But it happens. So yeah, that's the gossip. That's the headline. It's the GH6. It's the drama queen of the M43 world. It is the drama queen. No camera has led to this level of discussion, confusion, uncertainty, and all of that was on the back of a massive, steadily building anticipation, which, you know, the calls for Panasonic to release this camera reached a crescendo before it came out. And yeah, are we to blame? Many people have asked that. Are we to blame? Another thing that's going on is I don't know if I should do a separate stream, but this new Panasonic camera, which everyone's talking about. I might wait just a little bit because we don't actually know the details yet. It's meant to drop sometime this month, so that might be one to come back to, but a lot of speculation. It's full frame. And I did see the Grant Robert Davies channel saying M43 has been shafted. I think that's a little bit of a hard statement. I think that we've just had the G9 Mark II come out. GH6 isn't that old. Like M43 has had a couple of good releases from Panasonic. And I got to say that there's nothing wrong with a full frame camera coming out in the interim. I actually wouldn't mind seeing an affordable full frame camera. I think I've spoke about how I kind of wanted one, didn't I, in another video. Again, I won't go into it too much because we don't know for sure what this camera is, but with my M43 setup, I use vintage lenses a lot. And so I have this catalogue of lenses. And I'd love to just get an adapter. They're mostly Pentax mounts, so L mount to Pentax K, and boom. I don't need to buy any expensive lenses, right? Okay, I don't have the autofocus. So I'd probably get one kit lens, but for general photography, low light filming perhaps, that would be a nice option. Anyway guys, Panasonic Panic, what do you think? Feel free to leave a comment. Do you own the GH6? Are you feeling left out, abandoned? Are you psychologically in distress due to a lack of firmware? Really interested to know. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back with some more Panasonic content.